Well, that's just freaky. So, okay, I am alive. Well, let's see what fun stuff we can get into here. Well, that's just freaky. So, okay, I am alive. Let's see what fun stuff we can get into here. And apparently, there's a little bit of a delay as I am watching this on a second laptop just to see how this works out. And turn that sound off. Okay, so let's go to comments. Let's and test that out, shall we? Okay, so that one appeared. Oh, okay, and that popped up. So let's, and that worked. Great! Yay! All right, so yeah, yeah, modern technology at its finest. Yeah, Heidi Ho, good neighbor. Thank you for joining me on my 2-year anniversary celebration of being on YouTube. Everybody should have their celebratory glass of no, not wine, but cranberry juice. Because in case you hadn't noticed, I sound like I'm sick. And I'm not. I had a little bit of a sinus issue earlier this week, and it is doing fun things with my voice and my nasal passages. So that is why we are not drinking anything adult this evening, but still worth the celebration, celebratory glassware, if I do say so myself. So cheers and thanks for coming by. Thank you again. Yeah, so this is great. We've got 13 more minutes. I don't know, can you hear the clicking when I switch between the Hmm. And it's good to know the video actually on the other laptop, on the other screen looks pretty good. So glad to see that. All right, so we're not sitting here in complete silence while we do have another so many minutes. Any, I was gonna say any questions, concerns, but at this point, since I know the two two folks that are here fairly well, I think. Oh, wait a minute. Well, hi. Oh, thank you, Willmetta, for stopping by. Definitely appreciate it. I guess let's do that. Um, Drop in the chat because I'm I'm up to 4 viewers. So drop in the chat and let me know you're here, and then that way we know I'm not just talking into the void. You would think there would be a smoother way to transition between the two, between the banner and the chat. What's really going to be fun is seeing seeing what I can do with the video once I've gone live, because I'm fairly sure that YouTube saves it. So it'll be on my channel, but I don't know that this should be public. Certainly not without some editing. Although, let's see here. Excuse me. Yeah, I think those are all the buttons I can push. Let's see. Oh, So if I want to do anything special with the background, have to be on Google Chrome. Keep that in mind. Oh, yes, that might be helpful. So my 2 years on YouTube, well, it started off as one of the mini gurus. Let me back up. Hi, Dana Ellington here, self-published author, owner of No Water Press, publishing and consulting. And I started my YouTube journey 2 years ago with the sole purpose of establishing another way to drive traffic to my website. Because in case it wasn't painfully obvious, I am somewhat of an introvert. And so networking, back when we could be outside and in front of people on a regular basis, those kinds of marketing activities were a struggle for me. And I figured that starting a YouTube channel would give me a way to passively market my books and my services. And so I started my YouTube channel. And I started by recording video on my commute home from my day job, because I had about an hour to fill. And so figured might as well, hook up the camera and record. And so that's how I got started. And since then, I have done a couple of different series. I've learned some editing techniques, and so definitely the video quality has improved. I think we've still got some ways to go. I have ideas in mind to do book trailers, ads for my services, and that kind of thing. So we'll see where it goes from here. And let me check here in the chat. Oh, hello. Oh, thank you very much. Hello, cousin. So glad you stopped by. So yeah, we got a few people rolling in. This is good. This is good. So then at this point, hi, Danny's mom. Hi. So at this point, go ahead and drop your questions, comments in the chat. And again, if you're new, hopefully you have a celebratory glass of something fun, um, and safe to cheers. All right. So the services that I offer, not only am I a self-published author, I am also a writer's coach. And what I do with that is I help writers go from blank page to self-published. I offer individual coaching sessions, and in that we talk about maybe developing your marketing plan, or helping you get past writer's block, or helping you suss out plot holes or twists that you want to add. If you're doing nonfiction, then we talk a little bit about how to format and put the material together so that you're still telling a story, so that you're engaging your audience, even though it's nonfiction. I also do a workshop, simply self-published, takes 90 minutes, and I basically walk you through the steps that I used to self-publish my first few books in as few as 6 months. Now, that sounds a little fantastical to a lot of people, especially if you're new to writing, but it really can be done even with a full-time job, kids running around, whatever issues and things you may have going on. I can definitely help you work your way around it to, as I say, go from blank page to self-published in that shorter time. And that workshop is good for ages 16 and up and can be done in a variety of settings. Outside of that, then I also offer editing services and just a new to me area is ghostwriting. And that's the big package. Basically, you come to me with your idea, and then we work together over the span of 6 months to produce your book from from your idea to an actual either print or digital version. I haven't done too many of those because fortunately most folks with the who come to me with their idea, the singles coaching sessions help them actually develop their writing voice, and they're a lot more confident in writing their own work as opposed to having me do it for them. So, yeah, those are the services that I offer. Thank you for asking. Any other questions, concerns? This is probably going to be a fairly short live because I am practicing. I'm learning how to use all the fun tools and everything. So, won't keep you too long, but as long as the questions roll in, I will sit here and answer. Well, I appreciate the support. Basically, at this point, what would work the most is spreading the word, sharing the website, sharing the available titles. If you've read any of my work, then leaving a review either on my website or on Amazon. I do actually have a few of my books digitally available on Amazon. You can also email me the review, and then I can cut and paste it to the different sites and whatnot as well. You can also, if you are in a position, if you're putting together a workshop or if you're putting together a conference, if you're doing a book club or anything geared toward writers or authors doing readings, then I would appreciate it if you drop my name in the hat to the organizers and let them know that I'm available. Thank you for the question. Do I work in small group settings like writing clubs? I sure do. I can go, this workshop is good on small scales, whether it be an intimate gathering of just me and a couple other people, all the way up to groups of, I would say 100 would be the maximum in terms of being able to get a good quality presentation, or excuse me, in order for writers to get the most out of it, because under those circumstances, we probably would still have enough time, excuse me, to do a fairly robust Q&A after the presentation. Anything larger than that, of course, then we're talking your, just a basic presentation, and then maybe we would need a breakout session afterwards to actually go a little bit more in depth. But yeah, definitely, I'm great with small groups, small clubs, and would be interested in working with them. Thank you very much, Ben. Congratulations on my anniversary. Again, let me reiterate. Hopefully, somebody has something fun and safe to enjoy as we clink and cheers to the interesting journey it has been so far. I also want to point out Ben Cook is the wonderful photographer responsible for my stunning, stunning professional shots. I don't know if you've seen them. In fact, the thumbnail for this live was one of the pictures he took. I oh, what's the word for it? It was fun working with somebody who was able to capture my inner badass. So definitely, Ben, if you would, drop your contact information in the chat so anybody who might be interested in booking their photo shoot with you can get in touch with you for sure. Okay, Willmetta asks, how many books have I published so far? I am at 7 so far. The first book I don't really talk that much about because it's pretty raw in terms of subject matter and production value. I learned a lot doing that first book, particularly about proofreading and how important that really is. It was fun. Thanks, Ben. You definitely made it easy. And again, put your information in the chat bin so folks can get it. So we can at least follow you on Instagram at the very least. Let's see, have I missed anything? Nope. All right. Deborah asks, what is my monthly or yearly goal on getting my books out? I would like to produce at least 3 books a year. And that rotation looks like I would write 3 in one year, and then those 3 would be in production and be released the next year. And at this point, I am quite behind on that schedule, but that would be my monthly goal would be, or my yearly goal would be to do 3 books a year. Oh, what's my favorite genre of books? Okay, to read. I used to be a horror, supernatural, demons, monsters, all of that. I used to be a horror fan to my heart, and the scarier the better. Stephen King was my favorite all-time author, but I have developed a sensitivity to the gore and violence here in my later years. And I actually prefer now some supernatural. There's still, demons and fighting, but it's not as uh, gory. It's not as mindlessly violent, I guess, as a lot of the horror that I used to read. And so, uh, authors like Jim Butcher, Charlene Harris, those tend to be what I gravitate toward now. I've also developed a small liking for murder mysteries, which I didn't think I would like, but I do have a couple of authors that I enjoy there as well. And it's funny with all of that reading horror back in my youth, I figured I would write horror, but what actually fell out of my pen was women's contemporary fiction, romance. Who knew? I still don't like to read it, but I will write it. So the gurus never tell you what to do with the pause while you're waiting for the questions and things to show up. So I think what I'll put in here while I'm waiting for the next couple of questions is I wanted to talk a little bit about what being on YouTube is for an independent author. I didn't start my channel with the hopes of going viral or becoming an influencer or quote content creator, right? I never expected YouTube to pay the bills. What I really wanted to do was to have a visual way to talk about writing, show off my writing, and then hopefully drive readers and writers to my website. So, with that being said, I do notice that it's been slow going building kind of my voice on YouTube. And so I would really appreciate if you're here and you haven't subscribed yet, of course, want you to push that subscribe button. But what I'd also appreciate is maybe having some feedback as to what videos, what kinds of content would you, as an audience, be looking for from a writer, from an author? Do you want more sales stuff? Do you want more about the writing process? Like, what is it for you that would attract you to a self-published author's website? If you wouldn't mind leaving those kinds of things in the comments so I can go back and look at them later, I would really appreciate it. Let's see, genre. Alrighty. Any advice for writers who find themselves where I am when I started YouTube? So definitely, you've got to get out of your own way. You've got to not be wrapped up in comparing yourself to others, particularly those who are already established on YouTube. When I first started making videos, I went in just like I do with a rough draft of my writing. I knew those videos were going to be ugly. I knew they were not going to make much sense. I knew the editing was going to be choppy. I knew just overall that quality was not going to be where I wanted it to be, but I had to start somewhere. And so, for any new writer who's looking to build a YouTube platform, understand that those first few videos, heck, that first year of videos is going to be the equivalent of one of your rough drafts. It's going to be ugly and it's supposed to be ugly. If you launch a YouTube channel and you've got all the lighting right and the camera and the this and the editing and all that on standby, that's amazing. But you're still going to make some mistakes. You're still going to trip up. You're still not going to be sure on what it is you want to say, what types of videos you want to produce. And you can't let that hold you back from doing it. So I say just hop in there, make that first couple of years of not quite what you want it to be video, and you will see some improvement. You'll feel less shaky about being on camera, maybe, or your editing skills will improve, or you will actually find your audience, and your book sales, book launches, and things will go a lot smoother. Let's see. What is my advice on for writers who don't know how to start? Find or explore different inspiration. I teach particularly young writers to look to music first. Quite often, you'll hear a song, and that song, whether it has lyrics or is just an instrumental, will whisper to you a story idea, will whisper to you a setting, will call to mind uh, a plot. For example, song that I heard when I was a young kid I was in California, and the song Hotel California, I think it's by the Eagles. I'd have to look it up. But anyway, Hotel California came out. And I remember listening to it, and I remember that song giving me nightmares because there's a couple of lines in there about, mm, I'll quote you one, they stab it with their steely knives and they just can't kill the beast. That has stuck with me all these years. And I'm to the point now where when I hear that song, I hear a story. And so, as a writer who doesn't know where to start with the things in your everyday that whisper story, whisper plot, whisper scene, maybe a character. It could be that you're watching a really good movie, but there's something about it that you think, I could maybe tell that story a little better, or the theme of it brings to mind a tangent. You see a character in the movie and you're like, "Ooh, I wish I could explore their backstory," right? Well, that's a place to start. It doesn't mean that you have to that this is what you're ultimately going to write, but that's a good way to begin cultivating your imagination, cultivating your storytelling, cultivating your connection with your muse, connection with your characters, is to start with your everyday life and look at the different places, spaces, and things that call to mind story for you. Do I still write erotic stories? No, I don't. uh, what Charlotte's talking about, my first book was a collection of erotica. And in writing that, in promoting it, and doing the marketing for it, I realized that that wasn't something I was A, good at, and B, one of the things that I don't tell good, dirty stories. I I don't have the finesse for it, right? Now, I tell fairly good women's contemporary fictional stories that happen to have some sex in them. But yeah, those just weren't erotica's just not where my voice is the strongest. And so no, I don't write those anymore. Oh, what do I do when I have writer's block? I do just what I said. I listen to music, and I will pick music that has something to do with the story that I'm working on. And I will play a song, play a series of songs, have a whole playlist. In fact, I have several associated with my books over on Spotify, and I'll link those, I think, if I can figure out how. I will link those, but I will listen to music. And in listening to the music, I'll have my paper in front of me, a pen in my hand, or my fingers on the keyboard, and I'll just listen for the voice that comes through the song. And typically that gets me past whatever's blocking me. Because for me, writer's block comes when I'm distracted. Writer's block comes when I'm stressing or too far into thought over something else. I have to bring myself back to the story, and I have to open that channel that allows my characters to talk to me, that allows me to hear their voices. And typically music does that for me. Whew, so next year on YouTube, I have not thought that far. I believe, yeah, I haven't thought that far. I'm fairly positive that what's going to happen is I'm going to refine my voice. I'm going to cut back on my goal. I originally was trying to have a video every Thursday, and I think I'm going to dial that back so I can produce more consistent quality video. Like having a theme that runs through everything, but it's coherent as opposed to the way I've been doing it. I have a theme for the month, but the video side up to this point, for me anyway, feels kind of scattered, like I'm still guessing at what I want to say as opposed to having an actual solid idea when I sit down to film. But who knows? We'll see, if between now and December, uh, contracts get signed, deals get made. I may end up, with a professional editor and film crew. You never know. But we'll see. I'm interested to see where the channel goes for sure. Hey, cousin. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. Alrighty, Deborah asks, should you write short stories even when you are not writing books? For sure. For me, I write what I hear. I channel my characters. I I hear voices, right? So for me, the character comes to me and starts talking. And the story they're trying to tell determines whether it's a full length novel, 50,000 words or more, or if it's a short story, just a couple of pages, or if it's just an idea. Um, I have a lot of micro fiction, and microfiction being 5 sentences, maybe a couple of paragraphs that, it'll be a scene that comes to me. And it's not maybe what most would consider a complete story. But as far as my character is concerned, as far as that voice was concerned, that was all they had to say. And so, yes, I will write. Uh, I'm not stuck on the length of a piece when I first get the voice, when I first start writing. Some things came to me as a short story. For example, in my book, Aphrodite's Twin, I have a short story in there about a woman who gets turned into a vampire. And after a couple of folks read that short story, they suggested to me that it needed to be a longer piece. And so I, of course, diligently set about, responding to my readers, and I was going to make it a full length novel. Well, my character at that time didn't have much more to say. And so I took it from a short story to a novella, Eat, Pray, Blood. And I actually, yes, do I have it? So, yes, I turned it into a novella. And as you can see, this is definitely not a full length novel. This was all she had to say on the subject. And so I was able to expand it from a short story, maybe 15,000 words, to a novella, right around 35,000 words. And then not too long ago, spoiler alert, she came to me with the novel idea. And so she started talking to me, and I have now found a way to actually get a novel out of that one idea. And I feel it's a novel. She's definitely been talking enough that I think I've gotten a couple of other characters that have shown up, a full-blown plot in there as to why, the action is taking place. And so it feels like this next iteration is the novel that maybe was in hiding all along. So I'm looking forward to that. But yes, for sure. I think writing short stories, I think writing what comes to mind, whether you develop it into something larger or not, it's just a way of honing your voice, practicing your skill, and keeping the words flowing. It's a way of telling your muse that you're serious about the craft. Handwriting or typing. Ooh, it depends. It depends on what stage I'm in. What I've noticed is recently, handwriting gets the job done. I have developed, I think, as most of us maybe did, especially during 2020, I have developed a small addiction to scrolling through things, um, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. And so when I sit down to write on my laptop, the temptation is way too strong to be somewhere else as opposed to working in my manuscript. And so what I've noticed now is very helpful is my notebook, my pen, and separate myself completely from the technology. I'll even stash my phone, put it in another room, and then that way the distractions just aren't there, and I can sit and listen for the voice. Something else too is that being able to carry that notebook with me, I don't need a plug. I don't need to worry about a battery. I can write wherever. And quite often, the voices will come to me at a traffic light when I'm in the car. Or I remember once, this has been several years ago, but I was on a date, and in the middle of old boy's conversation, I had to tell him to stop. I asked the waitress for a pen, and I wrote the scene as it came to me while I was sitting there. And then, of course, you put the pen down and let them go. So definitely handwriting, I think, is the way to go, when you're drafting anyway. Once you get beyond that, it's helpful to have the technology at your fingertips. Yeah. About this next book. Uh, that's going to be a minute because I've got two sitting on my hard drive now, one of which I am actively working on drafting. So I anticipate this next one going into the queue early in 2023 and being released in time for Halloween because there be monsters. And yes, it's not really a spin-off. Or Willmetta says, wait, a spin-off? Yeah, it's not really a spin-off, and it's not really a reimagining. What it is Eat, Pray, Blood was a self or is a self-help book for newly turned vampires. And this particular character has revealed a couple of secrets to me that take it out of spoof or out of self-help territory into real life, so to speak. So yeah, that's all we'll say about that. Okay, so let's see. Asking so much, mentioned music being a source of inspiration. Ooh, what inspires me on the days when I'm just not feeling it? I don't know that I'm ever not feeling writing. I'm not feeling the act of getting up and focusing on the writing. But stories, my characters, that desire to put words to page and to share that is always there. Like I may not work on my manuscript, but you can best believe I've written a blog post. I more than likely have written letters that the recipients are never going to read. I am always writing somehow, some way. So, and I'm always inspired by different things. I might see an outfit and I envision that outfit on a character, and then that character comes to life and starts talking to me. So inspiration, I'm always inspired. I'm not always motivated. So the days that I'm just not feeling it, if I don't have a deadline looming, then I actually just rest. The characters, my muse and I have come to an agreement that I'm just allowed to rest for that period of time. I try not to let that happen too often. Again, certain things are emotionally, mentally, physically out of my control. And I tend to pay attention to when it's time to rest and then being able to discern whether it's resting or avoidance. And if I'm avoiding something, then I need to just get up and go ahead and write. Yeah, for real. Yes, rest. So, okay, we've got another lull. Let me see here what I had in my notes. So, another reason for being on YouTube is to showcase my ability to speak in public. Now, even though we are having this conversation virtually, and technically I'm not really talking to anyone, I'm talking to a piece of technology. Anyone seeing my videos can hopefully, when I'm not nasally and all congested, can hopefully hear that I'm well spoken and would do a decent job delivering a presentation at their conference, their workshop, whatever it is. And so that's another reason why I think as a writer, it's a good thing to have a YouTube channel, because even if you're not interested in doing workshops or that kind of thing, part of your marketing should include doing readings. And whether you're, again, whether it's virtual nowadays or you're actually able to safely be in person in front of a book club or whatever, you need to practice your delivery. You need to practice speaking, and YouTube channel is an excellent way to do that in the safety and sanctity of your own home. All right, let's see. Willmetta asks, out of all my books, which one is my favorite? Ooh. Ooh, you're asking the parent to choose their favorite child? What? Oh my goodness. Hmm, that is a hard one. I guess I'm reaching down here. Hold on. I guess my favorite would be Hello Diva. This was my first ever full-length novel that I wrote, and it's the first one that addressed one of my major insecurities. It's the first book that revealed my purpose for writing. Because up to that point, I was just telling stories. I didn't really have a reason for what I was writing, or at least not one that I could articulate. And what this book did was it showed me that the reason I write what I write is to help women, particularly women who are struggling with self acceptance, self confidence, who are struggling to love themselves as they are, regardless of shape, size, whether they're in a romantic relationship or not. I wanted to write stories that help them see their own beauty, help them love and accept their own strength, and realize that they are whole unto themselves. They don't necessarily, quote, need a romantic partner to save them, as we have been uh, indoctrinated to believe, but that they can learn, they can go through what they go through, and at the end of it, feel good about who they are. And so, yes, Hello Diva was the book that taught me that valuable lesson and then helped define, refine my writer's voice and the purpose for my writing. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Even nasally, I sound wonderful. Podcast. Oh, goodness. Talk about irons in the fire. I wouldn't know where to start. I do have, I think, what I consider a podcast. Well, it's podcast-esque on Patreon. I did start a Patreon community not too long ago. And so at the $5 level, you can actually hear me read writings that have not made it to the public eye. And so I put a lot of my exclusive, more personal writing on my Patreon. I'm also at the $10 level on Patreon reading to my audience one of my books. And depending on the response to that, I may continue and read another one when this one's through, but we'll see how that works out. But that's the closest I've come. Definitely don't mind appearing on anyone's podcasts. Hint, hint. So I am available for interviews at any point in time. Just let me know. Oh, would I consider podcast an extension of writing? For sure, for sure. Because you've got to write, at the very least, an outline for the podcast, at least as far as I'm concerned. Um, and so, just like YouTube, it's a way for a writer to have their words heard, to share their writing. And whether you're doing, say, you're podcasting about your specific work, or you're breaking down someone else's work, either way it goes, I think because there is an element of writing to podcasting, it is indeed an extension of the writing process. It can be another way to showcase your writing. Oh, well, thank you again, Deborah, and hope to see you back soon. Have a great evening. Thank you so much. Mm, mm. I tell you what, the aftermath of COVID, man, sinus issues linger, don't they? And you hate to be in public with a runny nose or any kind of cough, because you will get looked at. And what really tickles me is the folks looking the hardest are the ones not wearing a mask, who haven't worn a mask, who were so adamant against mask mandates. And now they're looking at you funny, like, oh, how could you dare, be in public spreading germs? Eh. Okie dokie, let's see what we got going on here. I really appreciate all of you showing up. I'm not gonna lie, I was prepared to pull the plug at 15 minutes after it was just gonna be me. So definitely appreciate everyone stopping by. So any additional questions, comments, concerns? You see here on the screen the website, so definitely hope that you hop over there and check things out. All right, and if that's gonna do it, then I am going to wrap it up here. Oh, wait. Oh, okay, yeah, Patreon. Let me see here. I will happily put that on the screen. Alrighty, let's see here. Clicking all the buttons. Okay, so it is patreon.com/Developmental WIDSP, and that stands for words I don't say in public. Okay, Willmetta asks, "What is my greatest writing failure?" Ooh, it would be that I waited so long to follow the dream. I wanted to be a published author since I was maybe 12, 13, but I was convinced that writing, at least fiction, was something that you did as a hobby. It was not, at least, it wasn't a viable option for me unless I went into journalism or something along those lines. And so I turned my back on my writing for more years than I care to admit. Excuse me. And so, yeah, that would be my greatest writing failure, is that I did not decide to pursue it seriously years ago. And a close second to that is I didn't proofread my first book before I sold all 50 copies. And yeah, we maybe we'll talk about that later. Oh, how do I overcome and move or how did I overcome and move forward from not so great writing? So if we're talking about a bad story, and again I refer to the first book I did, which I guess, if you're interested, again, this is the collection of erotica. It took me it took me maybe a month, 2 months of just stepping back and really taking the time to get serious about what it is I was doing with my writing. And even though I still wasn't sure about my purpose, I was definitely sure that erotica was not what I wanted to do. And so, uh, how I overcame was taking that time off. I didn't rush into another project. I didn't discount how that experience went. I didn't ignore the mistakes that I made with that first book. And I certainly didn't ignore the feelings that the writing and the process brought up for me. And so I think, as advice to anybody else who maybe you've written a story, you maybe even self-published, and that first one, when you go back and look at it, just really makes you cringe. I think you overcome that by taking that step back and really digging into the why, digging into what came up for you as far as emotions, feelings. Um, really look at what it is you did that you considered wrong, that you considered a failure, and then make the plan to not do it again. And that's how you overcome. That's how I overcame. It was definitely looking at the mistakes I'd made and deciding, yeah, no, we're not going to do that again. So how do I do it differently? Thank you. Oh, thanks, Charlotte. I figured words I don't say in public was a fairly apt description of the the writing that I typically keep to myself, but that I did want to share. Alrighty, folks, we've got 5 minutes. It has been an hour. Again, I do so appreciate everyone showing up. You have made my night. we've got a minute for Willmetta asks what kinds of words. Well, there might be one or two more curse words than I typically say in public. But for the most part, the words that I don't say in public are the words I talk or I write my emotions most often. And so I I talk about things in my writing that I don't necessarily share otherwise. My political views, my um, fears, my joy, my, things that my hot takes on certain things. Yeah, I don't share them here. And can we get a peek? Probably not. Probably not. Let's see. If I look at at the posts. Hmm. Oh, okay. Well, I will share this. One of my most recent Patreon posts is telling the story of the night Prince saved my life, and we'll leave it at that. And yes, so thank you, Willmetta. This was awesome. I do appreciate, like I said, everybody showing up. And since this one didn't explode or catch fire, then we more than likely will do it again soon. Stay tuned. As I said, if you aren't already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. YouTube wants you to hit the notification bell, but I don't know. Does it make that big of a difference? Who knows? But if you like the notifications, then go ahead and flip that switch. And on that note, my friends, thank you so much for joining me. And we will see you again soon.